Good morning, members, and to the viewing public who are watching through our social media platform. The chair will now call this budget hearing to order. And with 5 members of the Committee of Ways and Means present, we have duly established a quorum. So with that said, we move down to item 2, adoption of agenda, and do I hear a motion? There is a motion to adopt today's agenda and has been seconded. Discussion on the motion. Ready? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Motion is adopted. We move now further down to item 3, which is public comments. Are there any members of the public who are here with us this morning that wishes to make public comments? Yes, please. The podium is open.
Good morning. Tiro Hafaday and greetings, Chairman Sablan and honorable members of this august body, the House Standing Committee on Ways and Means. My name is Michael Norita Evangelista, and I come here today representing the CNMI Bar Association. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to come before your committee and register my full support of the CNMI Judiciary's request for funding to support indigent defense services. I stand, Mr. Chairman, in full support of this request, as the right to counsel is a fundamental legal right that ensures a person accused of a crime has access to legal representation. The right to counsel is guaranteed by both the U.S. Constitution and the CNMI Constitution, as well as the broader principles of justice and due process. This right is deeply rooted in our system of justice. The landmark case, Gideon v. Wainwright, held that the Sixth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution guarantees the right to counsel in all criminal prosecutions where the defendant cannot afford an attorney. And in so deciding, the Supreme Court made this constitutional protection applicable to the states through the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. This case recognized and emphasized that this right, the right to counsel, is fundamental and essential to a fair trial. In addition to federal protections, our CNMI, our local CNMI Constitution, explicitly recognizes this right. Article 1, Section 4 of the CNMI Constitution states that in all criminal prosecution, the accused shall have the right to the assistance of counsel for his defense. This clause affirms the fundamental nature of the right to counsel within our constitutional framework, aligning it with the protections provided under the U.S. Constitution. The Public Defender's Office carries the bulk of indigent defense work, and they do such a great work with their limited resources. But it is inevitable that at times the PDO faces a conflict of interest and are unable to defend the indigent defendant. In such cases, private counsels are appointed to represent the indigent clients. And this is why a properly funded indigent defense services is so crucial, so that when an indigent is accused of a crime and is hauled into the court, he or she has legal representation as guaranteed by both the U.S. Constitution and the CNMI Constitution. Having an adequately funded indigent defense service is not merely a matter of policy, but a fundamental moral and legal obligation. When indigent defense services is underfunded, overburdened, or inadequately resourced, defendants do not receive the quality of legal representation necessary to ensure that justice is served fairly. The consequences are grave. Wrongful convictions, erosion of public trust in the justice system, and the perception that justice is only available to the rich. On the other hand, a properly funded indigent defense system promotes fairness, equality, and confidence in our system of justice. Proper, adequate funding ensures that every individual, regardless of economic status, receives competent legal representation and upholds the constitutional promise that justice should be fair and accessible to all. In closing, Mr. Chairman, I am respectfully asking your committee to support the judiciary's request for increased funding for indigent defense services. In doing so, we fulfill our constitutional obligations and reaffirm our commitment to justice, fairness, and the rule of law. Giliso Sizuz Maasi, and thank you for your support.
Jesus Masi, and thank you, Consul Evangelista.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be available if there's any questions. I'm sitting right here. If there's any questions from the committee members.
And if you are in liberty to share your written testimony, you can submit it to the committee.
Okay, I'll do that, Your Honor. Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who are here that wishes to make public comments? Seeing that there is no further public comments, we move further down on our order of business, and that is item 4, introduction and statement of the chair. So at this time, I'd like to welcome you, Justice Manglonia, Presiding Judge Naraha, Associate Judge Kim Tenorio, Associate Judge Lilian Tenorio, and your team for coming before this august body to discuss your budget request and also the governor's proposal that was submitted to the legislature. And so with that said, let me recognize and introduce the members of the Ways and Means who are present here this morning. Starting by myself, I'm Representative J.P. Sablon, Chair of the committee. To my left, we have Representative Joel Camacho, and we have also to his left, Floor Leader Marisa Flores. To her left, we have Representative Roman Benavente. And the other side of the aisle, we have Representative Joe Flores. And to his left, we have Representative Patrick San Nicolas. And to his left, we have Representative Denita Yangtamay. Also assisting our committee this morning are our bureau staff. We have our legal counsel, Joe Taron. We have our budget analyst, T.G. Rabago. Our IT, Jonathan Diaz. We also have our senior legislative assistant, Ms. Claire Sablon. And also assisting also the committee this morning from the Office of OMB, we have Ms. Jasmine Camacho. And so with that said, Justice Manglonia, at this time I give you the floor for your opening statement.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of this committee. Sizuz Masi for the invitation and for holding this budget hearing for the judiciary. As you can see, the Chief Justice Alexander Castro, is not present with us this morning because he is under the weather. And Justice Enos, of course, has a recent death in the family, so he's taken a few days off. But we have Presiding Judge Naraha, as you introduced earlier, Judge Katie and Judge Lil. I'm using their common names in the judiciary. We have our Director of Courts and our Budget and Finance Director, John Villagomez. We are going to just shift a little bit from our tradition of having the Chief Justice or myself give introductory remarks. We're going to hand it over to our Administrative Director of the Courts, Sonia Camacho, because she has intimate knowledge of the day-to-day operations of the judiciary, but we are here to supplement any answers that she may make in the next hour or so. And we are here to clarify our budget requests for the next fiscal year and hopefully give you all the information so that you can arrive at an informed decision on the judiciary's budget request. So with that, Son.
Thank you. If I may, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and thank you, Your Honors. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of the Committee on Ways and Means. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you today to discuss the judiciary's budget proposal. I am Sonia Camacho, and I am the Director of Courts. In addition to the members of the bench that Justice Manglonia has introduced, we also have members of our leadership team who are here to assist with any questions you may have concerning our different departments. And they are Nora V. Borja for the Office of the Clerk of the Supreme Court, Patrick Diaz for the Office of the Clerk of the Superior Court, Roxanne Torres for the Family Court Division, Edward Diaz for the Drug Court Division and the Chambers of the Presiding Judge, Scotty Ogden for the Mental Health Court Docket, Nadia Moses Maritita for the Office of Adult Probation and Supervision, John T. Villagomez for the Budget and Finance Office, Martha Mendiola Standish for the Grants Management Office and the Office of Procurement, Romar Segotier for the Marshal Service Division, Jose Villagomez for our Facilities Management Office, Voy Francia for the Information Systems Office, Rebecca Santos for the Human Resources Office, Kelsey Aldan for the Commonwealth Recorder's Office, Hyun J. Lee for the Office of General Counsel, and Carmen Borja for the Law Revision Commission. We also thank Attorney Mike Evangelista, who spoke during the public comment period. The CNMI Bar President is a member of our Judicial Council, and Mr. Evangelista is here on behalf of the Bar Association. In February, the Judicial Council approved the Judiciary's fiscal year 2026 budget proposal of $13,650,620. And on March 5th, 2025, the Judiciary submitted its proposal to the legislature, providing a copy to the executive branch. Our numbers are on the screen, and our variances in comparison to the other proposals are also there as well. The request covers personnel costs at 8.6 million, operations at over 4.8 million, and the 1% public auditor's fee at $135,000. While cognizant of the impact of our request, given our economic structure, we are respectfully informing this honorable body of the judiciary's needs for our people on Rota, Saipan, and Tinian. The request, listing 7 local accounts and 1 proposed new one, covers costs for the 8 chambers, 15 departments, and the Law Revision Commission office. It is premised on our mission and vision as a branch, on national and evidence-based standards for the trial and appellate court's case management, on national trends to move towards a more evidence-based rehabilitative approach to justice with more treatment courts, on the implementation and maintenance of hybrid services, on maintaining workforce wellness and merit-based and competitive compensation plans for our staff, and on performance-based administrative programs that support judicial services and equal access. Our request begins with the executive summary on page 6 and covers principles, accomplishments, and updates on performance benchmarks. We have provided each members a copy of our proposal this morning. The proposal is also premised on our strategic plan, which covers 7 goals. Specifically, these goals are: goal number 1, ensure access to justice; goal number 2, facilitate fair and timely case resolution; goal number 3, advance specialized treatment court services; goal number 4, implement adaptive technology; goal number 5, promote an efficient and professional workplace; goal number 6, foster civic engagement; goal number 7 is to bolster capital improvement projects and renovations. Please help us in charting our combined successes forward. We appreciate this valuable time to come before you and to thank you, each and every one of you, for your consideration of these matters. We welcome your inquiries and comments. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Camacho. Okay, so this time we now open up for questions and answers. So just by looking at your worksheet here, we realize that there are some vacancies, vacant positions since the submission back in April. So my question is, since then, till today, are there any efforts in trying to fill these vacancies that are reflective on your budget worksheet?
Yes.
And there's several of them, right? We see that there is, in the mental health, the newly created court, there is a treatment coordinator that's still vacant. Is that still correct?
Yes.
We also have,
If I may, Mr. Chairman, are you looking at the judiciary submission or the governor's proposal?
we're looking at the, of course, the general fund submission from the administration.
Okay.
That's still reflective. So I'm just trying to ask this question because we want to make sure if it's reflecting correctly with the judicial. Are these positions still vacant?
Some of them have been filled, but most of them we have moved to provide either offers or have announced them and are waiting for
Okay.
for a selection for filling.
Okay,
As
so-
as an example, one of our deputy marshal positions, we have an offer that is out and they are to begin soon. One of the law clerk positions that was reflecting as vacant on the governor's proposal has been filled. We anticipate the recruitment process to complete for all of our local law clerk rotations in August.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then just looking at the request of the judicial branch on the utilities, I know that you guys have requested 720, but the governor had only proposed 300, so there's apparently a variance of 420. So I guess my question is, this is the annual billing that averages about 700 some on an annual
Yes.
basis for the whole entire branch?
Yes, for 4 of our buildings.
Okay. And then the indigent defense requests, I know that the judicial branch had requested $151,500, and the request doesn't have any NOPs for this part of the program. So under the 151,000 of that you have requested, what are the priorities, or what are the programs that you plan to do with this requested amount that was not given by the governor?
The indigent defense cost is typically billed against professional services, and it has, in tradition and in practice, been allotted and taken out of the executive branch accounts. Our request, the judiciary's request, we have consistently maintained that this should be a CNMI cost account and not a judiciary operational accounts. As you heard Mr. Evangelista's comments earlier, the preliminary rounds for indigent defense falls to the Office of the the Office of the Public Defender, which is an executive branch office.
Okay.
When there are conflicts of interest, the court moves to a rotation list from the active bar members, and we pay those costs from professional services typically.
Okay.
Because we are asking for a separate account to consider the payment of these costs, that amount is only to cover what we would typically pay under professional services. And what are those costs? They are not only for the court-appointed counsel, they are also for experts like psychiatric experts, the private investigators that are required in the defense of parties that come before the court, and additional items like interpreters and anything associated with the case as to equal access on defense. With respect to FTEs, we didn't request for FTEs because the billing for those particular items are for professional services in general, and so that's why we were just asking for it as a general amount
Right.
in a lump sum.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically just for professional services.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Justice.
Mr. Chairman, I think we made this same request in the last fiscal year, but it wasn't granted by this body and, of course, the governor. I think we just need to try to focus on the fact that this is actually similar to an alternate public defender. When the public defender is conflicted, then the court currently appoints private counsel members of the bar. But we got to look at it from that perspective. Now, this is not a judicial type of responsibility. I mean, ultimately, they have to appear in court, but it's an executive function to have an alternative or alternate public defender. So we request that you agree to our plan to have this as a separate business unit in the next fiscal year. This was unfunded last year, so it comes from the general operations of the court's budget. Right now, if you take a look at, if the clerk can just pull up that slide of how much we spent last. This is for the current year. It's 98,000, but it doesn't end at 98,000. There are, I believe, upcoming jury trials and more court interpreters to be appointed, more psychological evaluations to be made. So we're just halfway through the year, and already we have seen this expenditures increasing. Thank you.
If I may, the number that you see on the screens for any of our indigent defense tables are only what has been billed. It is not complete yet. There are cases that have yet to be disposed, that there is ongoing matters on, that attorneys are accruing costs on, that will come forward to the court for review, and those billings get processed internally. So the amounts, we are only in July, and we've reached that amount already. There was a jury trial that occurred earlier. We have not seen the complete billings come in for the full disposition of that. Parties usually avail of the appellate process, which is several weeks after the verdict, and so sometimes the attorneys will submit their billings accordingly. And so this number is going to continue to grow for 2025, and prior years' billings have not all been submitted.
Thank you for that response. Is it fair to say that this amount can fluctuate annually, as there are sometimes that there's no conflicting issues with the defense public defender's office, right? So this funding can fluctuate annually. Can we fairly say that?
Yes, as an example, about 3 fiscal years ago, it went up to $200-some thousand. And then in 2024, it went down, and this current fiscal year, we were going to see it rise again. But you're correct, it fluctuates. And there are cases where we have multiple defendants. Public defender can't represent both defendants. Obviously, a separate counsel has to be appointed for the second or third defendant in a given case.
Thank you, Justice, for that clarification. Go ahead.
I'd like to note, too, that the types of cases that you see captured in these costs is traffic and criminal. And there is a rare occasion where court-appointed counsel is appointed for civil cases. That's only if incarceration pops up as an issue on bench warrants. But for the most part, MLSC has done great work in representing our community for civil cases that qualify for their services. But they do not entertain representation for criminal and traffic matters. And so these numbers are indicative of those case types. Another item that is captured under these costs, if you'll notice, family court is up there. It is second in the number of appointments, and these costs also cover paternity testing and issues associated with paternity. And once paternity is established, then the parties move forward for child support.
Thank you for that response. And then that leads me to my next question, which is on your request for the drug court. Currently, we have actually 8 positions or NOPs.
Yes.
And you guys are requesting additional 3. So what are the additional 3 positions that you guys are planning to create or are requesting?
We anticipate activity from Rhoda and Tinian, so we are requesting for 2 caseworkers, one for Rhoda and one for Tinian, and an administrative person to assist with the handling of the administrative work associated with running treatment courts. There is a lot of confidential documents, a lot of staffing discussions, and it is intensive supervision, and therefore the documentation and processes involved, from drug testing to reports by healthcare specialists, to determinations by the judge, input from our law enforcement agencies, and attempts to secure and manage and maintain federal grants has created a huge need for the administrative assistant to come on board. So those are the 3 additional items. And drug court is a treatment court. It's a specialty court that we continue to see incoming clients for, and it has worked for the community, and we see that Rhoda and Tinian has a need, and so therefore the leadership, the judiciary leadership, including our drug court judge, who can add her own comments to this, have seen the need for those 3 FTEs specifically for our 2 neighboring islands so that they are not left behind.
Thank you. Thank you for that response. And at this time, I open up now to the members who ask, if you guys have any questions. Any members? Let me recognize Floor Leader Marisa Flores.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members of the court, justices and judges and staff. Ms. Camacho, appreciate it. Okay, can you take me to your new NOP slides, please? And which one here is, you mentioned something about Rhoda and Tinian. Are any of the NOPs, new NOPs listed here?
Yes, under drug court.
Okay. And so you get nothing from the mayor of Rhoda and Tinian in terms of support in monetary support, not like the other programs and agencies. They seem to have a shared thing going on. You guys don't have that? You guys don't get any support from the mayor?
Congresswoman, I think you're referring to DPS's presence at the Central Anesthesia?
No. I'm just asking if,
Monetary.
Oh, no, we
Okay,
but let's have Judge KT answer that.
I'll answer that. So we do collaborate with the mayor's office, the municipal council, the Tinian Health Clinic, Rhoda CGC. We do have a collaboration. Last year, and we're going to do it regularly from now on, but last year, Ed Diaz, myself, our drug court manager, myself, one of our case managers, and compliance officers, we traveled to Tinian and Rhoda. We did outreach, we did presentations for students, but we also met with the municipal council members. We met with the mayor, the mayor's representatives, and we met in Rhoda, we met with the CGC rep. In Tinian, we met with Mr. Neighbors from the Tinian Health Center, and DPS was also present. And basically what it is this. For Tinian and Rhoda, Tinian particularly right now, we have more participants than Rhoda. Rhoda, we've had drug court participants from Rhoda. Right now, we don't have any because there are no referrals, but in Tinian, we have quite a few. And the thing is, we bring them here and we provide core treatment here, but at some point, they want to go home and they want to reintegrate back into their community. And so they struggle with that. With complying towards the tail end of the program because they really just want to be home. And when I tell them, they need to find a job because that is a requirement, I know I have to be realistic that they're going to quit their job when they graduate because they're going to go home. And so what we've decided is that we need to have a compliance officer in Tinian and Rhoda because for treatment, we've worked it out with CGC. They will travel to Tinian and Rhoda and they will conduct treatment in person. We can also do telehealth, and then we also have our case managers who will fly there once a month. And then they will also monitor face-to-face. But for the compliance, we need somebody on the ground. We need somebody on the ground for compliance. So DPS, we've trained DPS officers to drug test. We provide drug test kits to Tinian. We also have trained our marshal in Tinian to drug test. And they've given us their full support. And in exchange, through our grants, we agreed that we would train them, take them to national training so that they understand the concept of drug court and the holistic approach. And so that's why we need the Tinian officers. I do have a participant right now, an active participant, who I've reintegrated to Tinian. But right now we're depending on the marshals and DPS to monitor them. And so they are helping us, yes.
Okay, so here's my question, because the salary starts at 41,000 for both outer islands. My next question will probably be, after you kind of give me some idea of what are the requirements of a compliance officer?
Okay, so just to clarify, the 41,000 includes the benefits, like insurance and so forth. But the duties of the compliance officer is they do curfew checks. They do home checks, so they'll go to the homes every now and then and make sure that there's no alcohol, drugs, make sure that the home is in compliance with the drug court rules. Again, like I said, curfew checks, they have curfews, and so they need to make sure that they're in the home at curfew hours. They do drug testing. They also do crisis intervention. Sometimes we have participants who are comfortable calling the officers rather than the clinicians or their case managers. And so our officers are 24/7 in the sense that they'll answer these calls and talk them down when they are struggling, when they are feeling sometimes suicidal, or when they're feeling like an urge to smoke. They also take them, a lot of our compliance officers also take them to treatment. Sometimes they say, I don't have a ride. We pick them up, take them to treatment. Sometimes it's, taking them to the hospital when they need to. So.
Okay. Is there a reason, Judge, that you can't get grants for this particular NOP?
The grants that we have do not allow for NOP.
Okay, and so with this compliance officer and the duties that you are, you just expressed, is there a way where you guys can, be innovative and maybe consider a certain percentage with another collaborative partner and share that responsibility, because you're training each other, we're building each other up, as opposed to the court doing, and I get it, it's very specific, Judge. In no way am I insulting your intelligence and what you're trying to do, but considering the resources we have right now, we got to be at least somewhat innovative and creative with how we distribute money. And so we have people from DPS, there's EMT people over there, there's CGC, you have this telehealth, and I understand that they're gonna do the maybe a welfare check or whatever it is. Do you have any probation officers that are stationed in Rhode and Tinian?
We don't have probation officers stationed in Rhode and Tinian, but we do have probation fly down once a month.
Okay, and we know that that's not enough. Is there any way where you can consider that? I mean, 41,000, you can break that down in half, 50% for the local general fund, 50% into another agency.
You know what? That's a great idea, and it's not something that we're opposed to. I think that's something that we can explore. Yes.
And I think that would be great, because considering that, there's some monies coming in specific to law enforcement, right? The judiciary is the end part, right? They go through this whole process. You call 911, DPS is there, and I'm all about public safety, but I also respect the courts. But I do believe that at some point, this is a shared responsibility. And the same way you talk about equal access or access to justice, it must be cohesive. It has to link. You can't just have the court without DPS. You can't have the court without probation. You can't have the court without compliance. You can't have the court without their LAs. We get it. But considering the constraints that we're at, we need to be as innovative and share the responsibility as much as possible. So that takes care of that. And so the administrative officer, Judge, he or she would be stationed in Saipan? Okay. And then I'm looking at your organizational chart that deals with the court, and it's on page 11. And so where would these individuals fall under, Judge?
They would fall, if you look to the right side under Superior Court and the bottom where it says treatment courts, they would fall there.
Okay. And then the total number of staff that you will have?
We have 8 now, so it'll be 11. That includes Tinian and Rhoda.
All right, so that was, okay. I do see that, anytime we're talking about drugs, that's very important to our community because we see an influx in crime that is directly affiliated with drug use. So I understand the importance of your court. All right, thank you, Judge. I think I'll reshift, but we know that you are open to a shared percentage, and maybe that's something you guys can discuss with your Judiciary Council if they're the ones making the decisions, because I guess they have a different role here.
Yes, yes, I'm totally open to that, but I do want to say that right now we do have DPS and DOC, that's part of our drug court team, and then of course mental health court team, and they help us with supervision. They help us with supervision, when we have a participant who's absconded, because unfortunately it happens. Our compliance officers will share that person's name and so forth with DPS, and DPS will help us look for them.
Okay.
And truthfully, DPS will find them before we will, right? Because they've known these people for many, many years. Because unfortunately, we have the same people that are in this world, in this drug world, and our drug court is 9 years old. So they've existed much longer, and we have veteran officers who are better at. Who know where they're hiding and where to find them, and so they help us. And then DOC helps us. They come to our staffing, and we also take them on training, and DPS as well. And they help us with the therapeutic side when they are in DOC. When I impose flash sanctions, when it's 1, 2, 3, 4 days in jail, and make sure that they're isolated, make sure they're not given drugs. And make sure that they are taken out for treatment. When our case managers go there, they give them a room where they can meet. When our drug court officers go there and say, hey, this person has treatment at CGC, they allow us to take them and then bring them back and so forth.
Okay, Judge, so follow up on that. Do you have existing MOUs that dictate how each agency works in collaboration with the drug court?
Yes, we do.
Okay. But there are no money figures involved as far as percentage, like this is what your job duty is and 15% of whatever funds you receive comes from this account, nothing like that?
No, we
Just
don't have.
administrative support?
Right, yes.
Okay. All right. And do you have, I guess, this would be my question to Ms. Sonia. Ms. Sonia, we've noticed that there's a lot of MOU hire. Do you have any MOU hires at any of the courts?
No, but I'm saying no based on an assumption that an MOU hire is an FTE premised on an MOU?
Oh, no, it's a MOU, it's not an FTE.
Oh, no,
Okay, that's good to know. I had to ask that because I think it's important. And I'm sorry if I sound like my voice is very, I sound angry or aggressive. I just came back from supporting our athletes, and I kind of lost my voice cheering them on. So my apologies. I don't mean to sound upset. It's just I feel like I'm not hearing myself, so I have to elevate my voice a
No
little. So my
worries.
apologies if that came off kind of.
Yeah, Congresswoman, we're used to hearing attorneys scream in court, so no, we don't,
Okay.
we're not bothered at all.
All right, right. Well, thank you for that. Okay, so there are no MOU hires, which is good.
Congresswoman, if I may.
Sure.
I just wanted to add to Judge Kim Tenorio's commentary on assistance from the mayors. We do receive from time to time assistance from the mayor of Tinan on other court services. For example, building maintenance, different sometimes we just don't have the resources to mow the lawn, and so we'll coordinate with the mayor's office. But even then, we are in line because they serve other community items across the islands. On Rhoda, we do have a coordination effort that's ongoing and has been from since before this mayor, and that is the shared space. And so for that particular partnership, they occupy the space, and there is an MOU that outlines what the relationship requires and what are the costs attributed to that relationship. And right now, the money attributed to that MOU and DPS occupying our spaces on Rhoda is shared cost for utilities for that building.
Okay. And then how much in utility costs is?
That we have a slide for our utility costs, and they pay for, they are responsible for half.
Okay.
So these are our per year billings, and so based on this, they would be responsible for, and of course it varies year to year, but for last year it's 24,000. So half of that would be 12.
All right. Okay, so let's move right along. Now let's go to this indigent services. And I noticed in one of your slides, I don't know last year if access to justice was on the top and categories kind of moved down because your priorities kind of reshifted maybe this year. I don't remember. But when you're talking about the indigent services, can you take me to your data slide, please?
The one that had the 98,000.
There we go. Okay. So when we're talking about indigent defense fees, would you know off the top of your head how many defense attorneys we have?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But we are in what's called the legal desert right now,
Yes, yes, yes.
where there has been
Dry season.
attorneys have either closed their practice or have merged with other firms or have left the island. And so the current active members, we're seeing that number decrease. But I can provide those numbers to you after consulting with the Bar Association.
Yes, that would be good, because if you're only asking for 150,000, 51,000 to be exact, how many people can that help? How many individuals, how many families? But obviously it varies on the case, right? So
Yes.
that can actually be exhausted in one case.
You are so correct. We have a jury trial, and if we have one jury trial and it has multiple defendants, and each defendant retains an investigator and expert witnesses and one interpreter, that amount is depleted. Just as Manglonia mentioned a couple of years back, we saw this account rise to over $200-some thousand. At that time, we were lucky that we had ARPA funding. But because every time we hit a jury trial and they are indigent defendants, you will see that number rise, because it's not only the defense issues, but the preparation for trial and the persons that you are preparing for to bring forward, like experts. And
Yeah, we've read a lot of cases in the newspaper that the coffers are starting to pay for in terms of, services, which is fine. But I'm not going to get into that. I might sound like I'm being controversial. So I'll take my follow-up question. Ms. Jazz, are there any more ARPA funds that are being withheld with the judicial court? Any more ARPA left?
Congresswoman, as you know, and it's indicated in our annual reports and our ARPA monthly reports, the executive branch canceled about $4 million of ARPA funding for the judiciary a year and a half ago. Initially, we were granted about $14 million, and the purpose of ARPA, of course, is to try to stabilize the economy of the CNMI and the other jurisdictions up until the year 2026. And so according to our strategic plan and our ARPA spending plan, we mapped it out so that our funding can last until 2026 as originally intended by the statute. So we were left with $4 million in the hole. We have planned to use that for our projects, technology projects, and our data center and treatment courts center in the judiciary. Now, we have invested millions of dollars in technology for courtroom, for hybrid hearings with the other islands, but now we have about a $600,000 A&E design. We went through procurement, ready to give the notice to proceed, but we had to cancel that. So on our shelf is a carefully planned data center and treatment courts center. Okay, so you're asking about ARPA funds. There are still some ARPA funds available for the judiciary because we have already entered into contracts with vendors. For example, our e-court, our e-recording platforms. Those are contracts that have been executed. So there are installment plans to pay those off.
In addition to that, we have, the executive branch, through the Department of Finance, entered into an MOU with CUC to pay for the judiciary's arrears. And that MOU is current and active until December 2026. But those are for the arrear amounts, and they are only good until the end of December next year, which takes us to only 3 months of the new fiscal year, which we are here discussing the proposal for. The MOU is on your screen,
Yeah.
and thankfully we were included in this arrangement.
Yes, that's always good. The CNMI needs to start paying their arrears to CUC so we can get rid of the FAC that was unduly imposed to us ratepayers. So thank you for making the effort to pay down. Ms. Jazz, is there any money left? Or
For
what is
ARPA,
obligated? Tell me what
correct.
is obligated, yes, as
They
Justice
are
said.
obligated for all the projects.
Okay, and that's in totality, how much is that?
I'm not too sure right now. I could get that information for you, but
Okay.
I do believe that they have good communication with the Department of Finance.
All right, so is in any way, are any of those funds attached to the Justice Center?
The ARPA funds? No.
No? Okay, is Justice Center separate?
Yes.
Okay.
The, if I'm not mistaken, we have $76,000 in encumbered ARPA funds.
Okay.
And again, those are tied to contracts with vendors that have already been awarded
Alright,
and are in phased completion
Good,
for
okay.
them.
Oh, there
Our
it
total
is.
encumbrances as of June is on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's total obligation. We cannot touch those. That's okay.
Yes.
So I guess, Ms. Jazz, if you subtract this 600-some thousand for whatever you have on your books, I just want to know a number. Is there a number that shows an excess, or is there no number since this is the encumbrance?
No number.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, though,
Sure.
can I clarify for the indigent fees? We did propose this fund. We've opted to embed it into the current administrative structure under org 11510100 under the professional services.
Okay, let's see it. So basically, Ms. Sonia, everything that you're asking for is just really to sustain, except for those new NOPAs that you're asking for.
Yes. And we realize that the $13 million, that's going to create discussions amongst you on how to consider that amount. We come before you every year. Our role is to inform you what the judiciary needs to sustain as a branch. And we respectfully request that you consider the priorities that we've discussed: indigent defense, treatment court, and the retainment of our 132 existing FTEs. And so we'd like to request that the vacancies be considered filled and not reassessed for any other purpose, because we have made, some we have made offers on, and others we have filled and are waiting for start dates.
So you've already started announcing those in hopes of getting some funds from this budget hearing?
No, since April, when the governor's submission came in, well, March, our submission, and then April, the governor's submission, our positions were already announced, like the law clerk for one of the chambers. We already have an offer that's in place, and those law clerks will be arriving in August. Their start dates will be in August, and then we have deputy marshal, deputy clerks. Those have all been announced, and offer letters have gone out.
Okay, so I noticed that you have some cases. You have a table here, table 7, 2024, 2024 case filings per quarter. And you have them listed down by cases, types of cases, and by months or quarters, sorry. And so your biggest is civil and
What
family.
page are you on, Congresswoman?
Page, I'm sorry, 21.
21, okay.
So let's take out traffic just for now. We'll use traffic last. But you have a lot of civil cases. Your numbers are up. Family court is up. And it just seems, it's a very consistent on the family court, 130, 137, 132, 131. Judge Kim, are these revolving door clients? Is this the same people? You don't have to answer that, but your numbers
Yeah. No, I
is
can.
reflective of that.
I can answer that. Not necessarily. There's one and done, right? Divorce. But the TROs could be repeaters. Wardship, child neglect, those could be repeaters. With child support, it could be, I have child support cases that are going on for over 10 years, right? Because as soon as parents' income change or whatever, they come and ask to modify, or sometimes, they don't pay. Sometimes they quit their job on purpose. So those are revolving doors, yes.
Okay,
But just to clarify, the 530, this number, you see, these are new cases only, not ongoing. Only new cases filed in that year.
okay. That's a lot. And the civil cases are obviously probate. what have
Probate,
you?
breach of contract.
Breach of contract,
torts.
torts, stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay, small claims, you would have to, you don't have to have an attorney, you can go pro se if you wanted to,
Yes.
okay? And then traffic, this is a big number, 2,720. One of the things that was brought up to this committee was that we've got a lot of car rental. And we got a lot of tourists. And some of them get tickets and they don't have a local driver's license. Do you guys have anything in your regulation that says if they are to come in here, or maybe we have to do this, I'm not sure, that if they get a ticket through the car rental, can't you guys take from the fees of the owner of the car rental to pay for these tourists that just leave, up and leave, and you can't get their payment for, let's say, illegal parking or speeding? PJ, presiding judge?
Citation are given to the individual, so they're personal. We would probably need a statutory
Okay.
a legislation to do
Okay.
that. But the court imposing the car renter to pay for those fees or fines, I think that is beyond our authority to do that.
Well, you're not really taking it from you're actually taking it from the owner of the car rental, because they have a responsibility to abide and at least teach and train of somewhat, whether it be in their foreign language or what, to understand road safety. Now, when they're coming here and they speed, obviously, you can't impose that fine to a secondary individual to pay for that? If you can't get a hold of the tourists, because they're not from here anyway, so then what? You can't get a secondary individual to pay for that, like the car owner of the car rental?
That is the reason I indicated that we need some legislation to do that.
Okay. You
But
can't-
for a parent relationship, yes, we can impose upon the parents to pay
For the minor?
for the minor.
Okay.
But right now, we have the e-citation, and with that, they can pay electronically, hopefully before they leave, if they are going to pay.
Okay, so here's my follow-up question. Now, what if they just don't even do this e-citation, then what?
A bench warrant is issued in their name, and upon return into the CNMI, that bench warrant is triggered.
So.
And it would be an arrest.
So when they are, and I'm trying to understand, because this is money, I'm trying to figure out how we can most make money for you guys and lessen the burden on the coffer.
Yes.
So when a bench warrant is issued, is this bench warrant shared with Homeland Security and CBP?
We do have coordination between our marshals and our Office of the Clerk of Court, and the different agencies do from time to time come to the Office of the Clerk of Court. But that's also where e-courts comes into play. The reason why we are making it a priority to automate everything is so that all of these things can be shared real time.
Okay.
When it's only paper, it cannot, FBI has to get it by hand, and, Patrick through his office will share that the minute the judgment or the arrest warrant is issued. But through e-courts and through the e-citation process, it's available online. And once we complete the goals of what is called the CJIS, the Criminal Justice Information System project, then hopefully these agencies, the local and federal regulator agencies, including Homeland Security, would
Okay.
have access to them.
All right, so here's my next question, Ms. Sonia. Last year, we spoke about the fees for traffic citations. Have you lifted any fees since the last budget hearing?
Lifted,
Or lifted as in like raise the prices in your fees, or are they all the same still?
no, we have not lifted any. Most of the fees that we do collect, some will need statutory updates. The presiding judge has had several discussions within a committee called the TRCC. It's a committee that the court is engaged in with the Department of Public Safety, DPW, and other Department of Transportation, Federal Department of Transportation approved agencies. And through that committee, there is an authoritative committee that's discussing the changes that are needed to occur, whether through legislation or through other means, because it's got to be a CNMI-wide approach.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is a TRCC, is that what you said?
Traffic Records Coordinating Committee.
So that's a committee within the committee of the court, another committee?
No,
No,
What is
it's a
this?
committee.
with DPS.
Under
DPS, okay.
DPS.
Got
The
it,
commissioner is the chair.
okay.
Uh,
Okay,
But
s-
actually, in this committee, I sat down with Ms. Margaret Camacho. She's the director for TRCC. And basically, I provided a draft legislation for her to review as the chairman. That legislation would have them coming up to the legislature and see whether they can increase all these fees and fines. And basically also we provided the existing statute in Guam, Hawaii, and California that compare all of these. So with that, I'm hoping that Ms. Camacho can sit with like yourself and work it out.
okay. So the draft legislation was given to her for comment already?
Well, actually, I drafted so that she can explore
Okay.
and improve it.
All right, well, that'll be nice. Maybe she can come up and talk to us soon so we can also move to get some legislation going so that we can get money back into the court, but also some percentages to the other agencies that also help the court to doing its job, which is DPS.
Well, draft legislation includes that too.
Good, wonderful. That's good to know. Thank you, PJ. I guess at this time, I'll just yield and let the other, my other colleagues go ahead and ask. Thank you,
Thank
Chairman.
you,
I yield my time.
Representative Marisa Flores. This time I recognize Representative Joel Camacho.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Your Honors, and to your staff, your team. I just have very brief questions. I do notice that under your request for operational funding, there's a significant difference between the governor's proposal and your branch of government's requests. Maybe can you just briefly explain to the committee, because I do see that under your operational request, there's a variance of 3.5 million, and about 1.9 million of that is to cover improvements, which I see under your personnel and operating expenditure worksheet. And then 852,000 of that is to cover technology equipment. Maybe if you can just explain that to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Yes, our figures vary with the governor's proposal because for items that you mentioned, our technology projects, we have that outlined in our budget proposal on page
43.
Yes. If I can just get there. The breakdown of our administrative costs is under the administrative account generally. And if you go to the justification pages for that on page 74 and 75, we have listed our technology requests. We have, our courtrooms are severely outdated. And as a matter of record, we have to have a recording system similar to how the House and Senate are equipped. We also have video systems that need to be upgraded for our inter-island sessions. And so you'll see the list on page 74 for our audio systems, our video systems, our evidence presentation systems. All of these would have been accommodated in the ARPA funding spending plan. However, because that was rescinded, the upgrade for the 5 courtrooms on the 2nd floor of the Guma Justicia, the Supreme Court on the 1st floor, the 2 courtrooms on Rhoda, and the 1 courtroom on Tinian could not be upgraded, and therefore you see these figures shown here. In recent months, we have seen recording system and speaker system failures in at least 2 courtrooms, and we knew that there would be an end-of-life date to some of our equipment up there, and that's why we had initially mentioned them and provided planning for them in our ARPA spending plan earlier on. But when that was rescinded, we had no choice but to provide them on our budget request so that all of our courtrooms are outfitted properly for evidence taking and for proper disposition of cases. We need the Active Directory servers, our database servers, and our storage servers, because we have managed to scan documents from the TT Times to now in our Commonwealth Recorder's Office. We have not completed that project yet for the Clerk of Court records. We have an entire courtroom that has those records, but in anticipation of scanning those documents and having them readily available not only for the judges but also our members of the public who rely on them, we need to do upgrades for our servers, and cybersecurity is an issue. And so when we talk about that as well, the advancement of technology requires us. This type of technology used to be a luxury. It is now a necessity. Nationwide, the CNMI is second from the bottom on how the court systems is automated. And we are making big leaps to automate not only access to our documents, but access equipment for hearing aids, for participants in the courtroom, for interpreter equipment that provides proper interpreter techniques for different cases, especially in traffic and criminal cases. And so you see these types of equipment listed in our technology equipment. Another big request that we have under our budget is for repair and maintenance. We are seeking $391,000 for that account, and the big amount under that is the Guma Justicia fire alarm and sprinkler system. We do not have one. We have not had one for 5 years, a workable one. And so because of it, and to stay in compliance with current fire alarm processes, we have an agreement with DFEMS, but it's very labor intensive. It requires that our marshals go to each and every floor and each and every elevator any given certain time. We space out those times. Sometimes it's twice a day, sometimes it's 4 times a day, depending on the occupancy levels of our buildings, to make sure that we are in line with our agreement with DFEMS to keep our buildings safe. And one way to address that is to bring us into permanent compliance, and that is for the fire alarm and sprinkler system to be completed. This is the last project on the $7 million originally provided for us in our mold remediation and HVAC project several years back. But when we went to bid out the process, the amount was short by $200-some thousand that we were hoping would be supplemented by ARPA. However, the ARPA funds were taken away, and so the award was not granted. And as a result of that, it is our responsibility to inform you why there is a need for our building for this purpose in case an emergency arises. And so that's why you see this figure showing here, that the Guma Justicia does not have a permanent fire alarm and sprinkler system. We have a process now to keep us in compliance with DFAM's methods, but the building requires this particular equipment to work. We have a balance in the HVAC funds of approximately $900,000, but that is not enough. And the other items are for upkeep and repair and maintenance. Anytime you have a building as widespread as ours and as usable, our foot traffic approximates to over 64,000 people a year. And so with that, the normal wear and tear for our buildings and our restrooms and air conditioning systems and our vehicles, that's provided for in this request. And so that's why you see that amount, because every time you have big assets like that, you need a maintenance plan. Otherwise, it'll be more costly, as we found out with the HVAC. If we don't take care of it in interim terms, it will break down and it will force us out of the building, and we want to prevent that. And so that's why you see this amount as big as it is. I hope I answered your question, Rep. Camacho.
Thank you, Director. You did. Thank you. Chairman, my last question. So my last question is, I do notice that with the variances between the departmental requests or your branch of government's requests for NOPs, for example, the Supreme Court, the Law Revision Commission, and the Mental Health Court. I do notice that there's no additional requests for FTEs. It remains the same. So I know that for the Supreme Court, it remains at 8. There's no additional request for that. And then for the Law Revision Commission, it remains at 7. And then for mental health, it remains at 7. But I do notice that there's a variance. Is this to cover maybe salary adjustments, or is it for fringe benefits adjustments?
I cannot speak as to the governor's proposal, but we have Jazz here. But what typically happens, why there is a variance, is we submit in March. We submit our proposal to you in March. They submit in April. And then between that time and today, employees come and go. And when employees switch, their benefits switch. And when one employee decides to go full-blown coverage under health insurance, that's an automatic $13,000, John, per employee. And so that is the reason for the variances between the budget submissions and today. I am not aware of other variance amounts.
our budget analyst just gave us a list, or just gave me a listing that does show some variance with regards to wages. Maybe a few salary adjustments. For example, under LRC, we have 7 FTEs, and the judicial branch is requesting for 465,905. The governor proposed 246,430, and then for mental health court, we have remains at 7. So there's an increase in requests of 54,000, and then for the Supreme Court remains at 8, and there's a request of 41,000 additional.
I cannot speak as to the governor's proposal, but for LRC and for the Supreme Court, we are not requesting for additional FTEs. We are just requesting that the current and existing FTEs be retained at the amounts that are listed on our budget request. The FTE under LRC, I think it's the research, the attorney. There are 3 unfunded positions that we're showing on there, and we are requesting for those to be funded.
All right, thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, and you for now.
Thank you, Representative Joel Camacho. You mentioned, Director, that you guys have a balance from the HVAC funds at roughly 900 some K. Right now, are you guys using those balances of funds for other perhaps issues that with regards to the Justicia for repairs and others, or are you just reserving that to kind of add further to accommodate the request on page 74 and 75 to upgrade your technology equipment? So my question is, what are the plans with this remaining balance
Yes.
of the HVAC funds?
Great question. Thank you. The 904,000, Mabby, if you can pull up the slide again, that is our balance for that account. And my understanding is under that statute, it is not a revolving account. It is scope of work specific, and it was for the mold remediation and HVAC repair. And the selection and replacement of a fire sprinkler and water and alarm system was the last project on that spending plan. And so, do we have plans to spend it? Yes, we'd like to, upgrade our fire alarm and notification system. But my understanding is under the statute, we can't use it for other purposes than what is stated in there.
Right. So I guess this is the legislature would be the body to kind of assist the judicial branch to kind of make it more flexible where you can utilize these funds to your needs, because it's pretty much alarming that you're not in standards with the fire alarms, right? So my question would be, how much is it going to cost the judicial branch to address the fire alarms issue?
Mr. Chairman, at one point, it would cost us about $1.2, $1.3 million. So that's why we allocated a portion of our ARPA funding to supplement the $900,000, but of course, that's not possible. We don't want to use the $904,000 for any other projects or purpose other than the fire alarm system. We have a letter from DFEMS already warning us about not having this system for public safety. We want to comply with it so that we can get a permit to
Right,
occupy.
and that's very concerning.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
So we don't have any other project other than to have this fire alarm system.
Okay, so maybe perhaps, but as we speak, Director, can we use it for the fire alarms? Right now, or we need to adjust or make amendments to the statute?
As we speak, that is an allowable cost under the
It's allowable
spending
cost,
plan.
okay.
Yes.
Just want to make that clarity.
Yes.
So we went through procurement, and we wanted the procurement office of the Department of Finance to sign the contract, but it was rejected.
Okay, wow. Thank you, Justice, for that information.
And,
So,
and
yeah,
if
go
I may,
ahead,
Mr.
Director.
Chairman, that amount was last year's amount. We are finding that with current costs and shipment, I just don't know what that amount would be today.
The 1.3.
Yes.
To address the fire alarm.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you for that. And then my next question, I know that Jasmine alluded that the request for the indigent defense is actually awarded by the governor on his proposal under professional services. So is that clear, Jasmine? That's you guys funded that under ORC 11510100.
That is correct.
Okay, so Director, I guess that's according to OMB that your request for the indigent is embedded on the professional services. We just want to make that clear. Yes, go ahead, Justice.
So should we interpret that as this committee granting the business unit for the judiciary on indigent defense?
It's embedded on the governor's proposal right now as we speak under professional service. You were given 150,000 under the governor's proposal.
But that goes to our statement that when it is part of the judiciary's actual budget norms, it becomes an operational funding for the judiciary. And so we're requesting for a new account with a set amount that clearly draws that line between that activity and the courts. Because this is not a judicial function.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we would like a
since-
separate account number
Okay,
to
maybe
provide.
we can work on the details moving forward before we make the budget bill. But at least just for the record, because the judicial branch did not request any amount for professional services, and that the governors under OMB had alluded that the 150 given on this org number is for the intent of the indigent defense.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, and then my next question would be on the judicial building funds, is it right? How much is it in, as we speak, in these funds? I know that there's a certain percentage that the judicial branch can utilize when it accumulates. So do you have that figure with you right now?
I have the Department of Finance's figure that they shared with us, but there has been discussion as to what is this amount and what is the final amount. We have been working with the Department of Finance on this. My understanding was there was going to be an audit review. However, they were able to go back and reconcile the account. And so I think that question might be better posed to them. But the figure you see on the screen is the figure that we have.
Under the Munis
Yes,
account that you guys
yes,
have access to?
yes.
Okay, so
Last year, when we came before the committee, this figure was a negative. Since then, through our discussions.
Yeah, it was actually a positive figure, and then towards when we're about to draft the bill, all of a sudden it became negative. So that's the reason why I asked for that question. So at this moment, it's reflecting through your system, through your Munis account, that it's 1.1.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
But I'd just like to clarify that we are not the ones who certify the amount. It would be the
Right.
Department of
Maybe
Finance.
maybe perhaps this committee can have further discussion with Department of Finance on this issue. Thank you for that, Director. Are there any other questions from the committee? Recognize Representative Marissa Flores.
Thank you, Chairman. And again, we're going back to a lot of the requests based on the court's submission. And I'm going to go into your technology equipment that you were talking about. It's just a very substantial amount of money. The audio systems, there's a number here in parentheses. Are these for new systems? And where would they be placed?
The audio systems will be placed in all 8 courtrooms, Rhoda, Saipan, and Tinian.
Okay.
Right now, I heard from PJ Naraha that he had a traffic hearing between Saipan and Rhoda, and the defendant in Rhoda was having a difficult time hearing PJ Naraha. So examples like that, we want to solve that audio difficulty. So they'll be placed in all courtrooms. We need to change the amplifiers. We need to change the wiring within the Gomostisha. This is a 30-year-old, almost a 30-year-old building with antiquated wiring system. Technology has since changed since 1996.
I understand,
Yes.
Justice, and that's a good point. And then, like I've always said in any budget hearing, the lack of planning for repair and maintenance is a common practice in all agencies. And this is now catch up for the court because you've had these systems long time ago, and now we are presented a situation where the upgrade is needed because other needs were more important in previous budget requests. So, how many cases do you see in Tinian a year?
Does that question for criminal and civil?
I'm just trying to get a number, PJ, on what's your foot traffic in Tinian, because then Rhoda would be one, since we know the foot traffic in the CNMI or Saipan is 64,000. Or is that inclusive of all, Ms. Sonia? Is that what you mentioned earlier?
Yeah. Our foot traffic of 64,000 is for all islands.
Okay, got it.
But majority of it is here.
In
Okay.
Tinian, the foot traffic per year is 1,700. In Rhoda, just a little bit over 2,000 foot
2,000.
traffic
And
annually.
that's mostly just to get documents, pay fees.
Yes.
I'm talking about cases in general.
Cases, we do have it. It's in our annual report. Let's,
Okay, that's okay. It's okay, Justice. I'm just trying to get
Yeah.
an idea. And the reason why I'm asking is because when there are cases or there is a crime committed in either of the sister islands, do your marshals escort these alleged defendants to Saipan, or does another agency have to fly to Rhoda and Tinian and escort the individual to Saipan since there are no holding grounds in either islands?
That responsibility is with DPS. And so I think in instances where they need to be housed, the transport does occur, but I'm not aware of any in recent occasion.
And are those included in a travel expense?
There was one from Rhoda that the PJ can speak to.
Last week, there was a change of plea, so that plea requires that DPS take possession of the defendant, and then they bring that defendant to Saipan, and then have that defendant incarcerated at DOC if the incarceration is 72 hours and above.
Okay. All right. So in no way is there any collaborative partnership between the court and DPS for that transaction, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, because it's almost just like a business of people.
So what happens is that the defense counsel and the prosecutor will come up with a plea agreement, and all of those specific are incorporated into the plea agreement.
Okay. Let's take the Judiciary's Administrative Office Budget Justification, page 71, that you had submitted. And you have deputy marshals, base salary, administrative officer at 30,000, and then you have a general and a superior above 60,000, and then you have deputy marshals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is that correct? Or 8 at 25,000, and you have one paralegal at 37,500. Is there a reason why you need a paralegal for the marshal? when the system is supposed to kind of do its own document handling that already prepares how people function?
Oh, no, Congresswoman. So this list is comprehensive for the entire administrative account. The paralegal is for the Office of General Counsel. There was a paralegal position there, and we are seeking funding to ensure that that position is secured for that particular department. For the deputy marshals, those positions are under the Marshal Services Division, which is a separate department. And then the director of courts, the deputy director of courts, and the director of courts for Superior Court, those are in conformance with our strategic plan and the organizational chart for the organization now.
Okay.
There are certain strategic plan areas that remain uncovered because those two FTEs are not feasible and have not been. They have been a consistent request in our prior year's budget, and it brings us to current national standards on implementing certain court case management features across the CNMI.
Do we happen to, I mean, I get that you guys want to be in compliance and you want this beautiful judicial building with all these wonderful amenities. I get it. Do you see any in the forecasted future, since we're part of the United States, some case coming here that's going to put us on the map like the federal court? I mean, this is quite an extravagant building. And I said this at the last budget hearing, that there's a lot going on. I was in Tinian for the budget hearing, and there was a faucet right outside the parking lot. In this little area here in the bottom left. Go to Rhoda, and there's just, boxes, and I just, is this a need? Is there a need for the general counsel to have a paralegal, I guess, in a sense? Because you got other needs that need to be addressed. What is a need?
The answer to your question is, and thank you, yes, it is a need. We would not have placed it on the budget request if it wasn't necessary for our operational needs. As to the locations, specifically to Tinian, there is a master plan in place for Tinian because the initial discussions that go back several years is that the courthouse is not going to be situated there.
Okay.
The anticipated department that needs that location would be DPS in anticipation of the growing military demands on the island. And so the leadership, we met with the Tinian leadership, and there is a plan. In fact, land has been allocated for it, for a courthouse elsewhere on Tinian. Now, there were plans as a result of that to seek the A&E and the construction for the new courthouse. And because of that, we were trying to minimize renovation costs at the existing one.
Okay.
Additionally, the presiding,
Congresswoman, I think this is the second or the third time that I've heard you use the word extravagance in budget hearings and I think elsewhere. So can you just be more specific as what your interpretation is of judiciary extravagance? Are you talking about the position of paralegal or the building itself? If you're talking about the Gumaustisha, you got to remember that we inherited that building from our previous judicial leadership, and we're just trying to maintain it. There's a lot of deficiencies in that building. Right now, let me just give you an example. We have 6 elevators. I don't know who planned the 6 elevators, but we only have 2 working elevators.
Okay.
The other elevators are going to be financed by FEMA, and we've also taken the step. This is really a good step that we've taken with USDA, and they're able to finance one. So last year, we presented you with this committee and this legislature with the same request. And we're just trying to maintain this huge building. If I had taken a role in the design of that building, it would not be like that. Okay? So, going back, what do you mean by extravagance? I would like to try to give you all the information you need so that you, as I mentioned earlier, so you can come to an informed decision
Yes,
on our budget request.
absolutely, and I agree, Justice. And just like you at the Judiciary branch, you inherited a lot of this, and so
Yes.
did the legislature, in terms of lack of foresight, lack of planning. I think we're all in the same boat. Right now, the consensus is that we're trying to maintain it, but we're also asking for a lot of audio equipment that
Yes.
should have been part of a budget years ago, if that was the case. And that's why I'm asking, because now we see it as a need.
And if I may just respond to that, last year I did mention in this hall that we allocated about $100,000 or $125,000 per courtroom. And where was that budget supposed to come? Not from the local funding, but from ARPA. And that's why I said we had a spending plan, but we could not execute that spending plan because it was
Yeah,
taken from
taken
us. So we didn't want to use the general funds or local funds. We had the ARPA funding, but unfortunately, it's not here anymore.
Right, and just as a lot of agencies, a lot of their funds just kind of disappeared as, or it was there and not there before, as the chairman indicated earlier. And I'm still trying to locate some justice funds money myself. And so I share the sentiment. I agree. I empathize and sympathize with the court. So you mentioned also that you're going to be putting some video systems. Are these cameras for all the courtrooms?
If you're talking about security cameras, we have,
No,
What
I'm
are-
talking about cameras in the
oh,
room.
yes, we've had conversations with the bar. We need camera systems for digital evidence. By cameras, I mean monitors and like your highly
Yeah.
technologically advanced camera up here. Some courtrooms, some of our courtrooms do not have that.
Okay. And the reason why I'm asking, Justice, is again, the sentiment of the public is that nobody wants to go to courts, Justice, at all. That's not a place where someone wants to go, unless you're gonna get a judgment in your favor. Otherwise, you just wanna avoid that place at all costs.
Yes.
Right? So my whole thing is, the sentiment that we see and we're told is that not everybody gets to go there. Not everybody's privy to how judges adjudicate cases, right? How they defend and interpret the law and the Constitution, right? That's it. So we were approached, and the idea of a camera system to be placed at the judge on all courtrooms, unless a minor's involved, obviously you have IT to make sure that those types of protections are in place when, navigating through that. But the sentiment is that we would like, at least with this, I'm hoping that with this video system, should it be considered by this committee, that these cameras be placed in the court, and not just the Supreme Court, for individuals to kind of watch the Supreme Court, have a slip opinion about a long existing case. But they want to make informed choices now on the judges that are actually up for retention. And I think that should be part of the access to justice, right? That's where I'm getting at. It's not just the needs of the court, but it's also the needs of the people making informed choices as well. When the judges and justices that are up for retention have access, the people have access to you. Some cases are closed, we get it. Some cases are always open, but they want to be able to have a relationship and see how the judges and justices adjudicate these cases, so that when an election comes, they're able to make that informed choice and not just business as usual, right? And the voters are getting very savvy nowadays. They want to make sure that whoever sits anywhere that is on a ballot is the right person, and we're all at risk here. There's nobody here that's not at risk for
Yeah.
that.
I totally agree with you, Congresswoman. We want those cameras in the courtroom because that's part of our strategic plan. If you take a look at it carefully, access to justice. This is a changing judiciary. It's not the same judiciary as that in the 1990s or 2000s. We want to be able to make ourselves open. And we're doing that in outreach programs. The judges go out so that these future voters would know what these judges are all about, what we do in the courtrooms and outside of the courtrooms. But anyway, I thank you for your support on our technology program. But remember, we came to you last year and you gave us 0 for all others. So
I
it
remember.
wasn't possible this fiscal year. So this next fiscal year, please give us 125,000 per courtroom. We can't just buy the cameras, but without changing the backbone of the technology program, we need to replace those wires, antiquated wires, with fiber optics. And I'm talking about the entire Gumostisha and also Rhoda and Tinian courthouses. So thank you for those statements that you just
Yeah.
made. If I may just refer to your previous question before you move on. Since 2021, on the bar resignations, we've had 41 attorneys resign from the Bar Association. And the director has mentioned that the CNMI is now a legal desert. How do we reach out to those people? How do we have those indigent folks in Tanapec, in Sinapalu, in San Jose? How do we get them representation in courts? And that's part of our access to justice. 41 attorneys resigned, and only 8 have been admitted since 2021. 8 admitted, but some of those don't practice on the island. So we're running into some situation here. We have programs like pre-law program. We have 2 or 3 in law schools, but the question is, are they going to return to the CNMI? That remains to be seen. But anyway, 41,000. And I would like also to address the number of cases that we have in Tinian. Our annual report says we had 127 cases in Tinian last year. That's criminal and civil cases. So a judge is assigned to Tinian, but sometimes the judges would have hybrid hearings. And it can be difficult because of the technology that we have in our Gumostisha.
Okay.
Okay.
So then here's my next question. Last budget hearing in professional services, I believe, Ms. Sonia, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you had the pro temp judges itemized here. And is that still, I see the law revision. Do you guys have a category for the pro temp judges?
The pro tem judges are not paid. They are usually
Stipend?
what the CNMI pays for. We actually benefit greatly from their services because they are here from other neighboring court systems, generally from Guam. The Constitution allows it also for elsewhere. But here is the total cost for pro tems in 2024 and the current number for 2025 up to end of May. What are our costs? They are for reimbursements for meals, lodging, and airfare. The time and the commitment by their accompanying law clerks, and sometimes their deputy clerks from those islands, is their contribution to assist us with the dockets here.
Okay, and do you have an existing MOU?
No,
No, it's just a relationship that you guys built upon?
it's
Okay.
pursuant.
If I may answer that, the law allows for pro tem, so there's no MOU. But I can say this, that they assist us. The $5,000 that you see there for 2025, that's minuscule amount considering that the time they spent on cases. Just this year, there was a pro tem judge from Guam who stayed here for a week, maybe over a week. Can you imagine the prep time that that particular pro tem judge has to spend in preparing for a trial? I mean, that's hundreds of hours, I would say, to spend out of the courtroom in preparation for a trial. And there's a symbiotic relationship also between Guam and the CNMI. I've been a pro tem justice at the Guam Supreme Court for over 25 years. So I don't get paid. I spend hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours over the past 25 years, and they do the same for us. So there's a need for a pro tem because there's a code of conduct that judicial officers have to abide to. If they think that they have a conflict of interest or there's an appearance of impropriety, they have to recuse, or the attorneys might have to file a motion to disqualify these judges. So there's that safeguard. And why? Because the litigants out there want to be assured that they have a fair and impartial decider of their sitting.
Yes,
in the,
I
from the
I
courtroom.
agree, Justice, and you are correct. You know, and you're the professional here. You went to law school. I was elected by the people. You were also elected by the people. But when I sit here in this chair, I also have to address what the people would like to convey. And a lot of that really, and the reason why I asked in the pro tem is because they would love to see most of our judges that they elect hear these cases. And there's never any reason. And like you said, you have your canon rules. You got your ethics. You guys set those standards for yourself. I just ask that because I think it's important for the public to know where you stand and where the court stands with that, because what they would like to see is a lot more of our judges and justices take on the cases that greatly affect our community. And that's the only reason why I asked where that was in the budget, Justice.
Congresswoman, if I may also, I'd just like to supplement what I said earlier. There are, if we do pick on a retired judge, that's when we pay an hourly rate to that judge.
Okay.
And that rate is based on the hourly rate of the judge or justice that recused.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so if, and that's in the statute. So
Okay.
that's why Justice Maglonia is saying we don't need an MOU. It's provided for on the
Their
screen.
hourly rate, okay.
Yeah, you'll see it on the screen. On this, the statute lists special judge, but you know that was phased out, and now they're called pro tems. And so if they are a sitting judge in an allowable jurisdiction, we don't pay for their hours. If it is a retired judge, which is allowed under the constitutional authority of the Chief Justice to appoint, then we pay at the rate of the sitting judge or justice that recused.
Got you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
And I
welcome.
think that's important for the public to hear. And so then the rate then for the hourly rate for the attorneys, that's still $75?
Yes. Yes, it's still low, and and that's where professional services comes in. If we have the funding for indigent defense, a separate account set up, or a mechanism similar to an alternate public defender, then that amount would be somewhat addressed. If not, it would be to the private bar. And that rate is the way it is because our budget is where it's taken from, and
Right.
we have been defunded in that account over the years. What we sometimes do is we wait until the end of the fiscal year, and we use our lapses to pay them.
Okay.
Because as a matter of justice, it goes to this whole constitutional argument of why they're necessary.
Yeah.
And in the end, we need to address it. It should be addressed soon, and a separate account should be provided for it,
Okay.
and attention should be at least a discussion, and we're very willing to come forward and have that as a separate discussion with you.
Okay. The one thing I would like to ask the court if they could consider on your travel, please maybe go back to DPS and figure that out, because from what we gathered in Tinian, was that when alleged criminals or defendants are to be transported to Saipan, that money and that expense comes from DPS. And we all share the responsibility. You guys are also part of this responsibility. And maybe we can figure out how we can share that cost. Because again, you guys are the last resort, right? But you need everybody else to get the foot traffic into the court. The cameras would be another one of the requests. I know there's a lot of tech requests that you're asking for. Food items, I know that's probably for the jurors. Repatriation for recruitment, I see that here also. Subscriptions. And then the last one is the law revision. A couple months ago, I was doing some research and I was in the Law Revision Commission website, and there was a legislation that I was working with the courts to draft, and apparently it wasn't updated, so the legislation that I wrote was pretty much, it was basically not updated.
We have good news, and I would like to call on our executive director for the Law Revision Commission to come up and provide all the updates that
Wonderful.
that have been provided, not only on the website, but in what they are doing in the community.
Okay.
Can you just press the button there? Yeah. Please proceed.
There
Test.
you go.
Hi, Representative.
Good morning.
Flores. I do not have exactly I pull up my master log, but I would need to know what public law has not been codified. To date, all public laws have been codified that are of permanent nature, except for the captive insurance. Right now, it's just about ready to upload on our website. But otherwise, we should be updated on all codifications.
Wonderful. That's good news.
Yeah. So everything's up to date except for the captive law.
Okay, so that's good. I'm glad to know that, because like I said, there was an incident and I was like, oh my goodness, I guess we're not really up to date yet, but I'm glad that you brought us up to speed and that the research that our LAs also do is accurate based on what the functions of the commission is meant to do.
And
Definitely.
if at any time it's not up there or there's an error, I'm happy to address it.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. So we know the balance of the Justice Fund.
Congresswoman,
Yes.
let me just clarify one of the questions you asked earlier about traffic. I believe you were referring to illegal parkings. When it comes to illegal parking, the ticket are issued, but it's placed at the windshield and behind the wiper. And then what happens in court is that the court will call that citation, and the prosecutor will say that the prosecutor is ordered to write a letter to the motor vehicle director, which then the director will issue a letter to the owner of that vehicle to come at the next hearing to answer to that citation. So we're looking about tourists. That is where the court will impose the fines on the owner of the vehicle. So
Okay.
that is one exception.
Sure. Okay. And then maybe my last one, PJ, if you could just kind of take a look at those fees that you're working on with DPS and try to figure out something that is, I guess, appropriate. At this point in time, I know that the general public, the consensus is no to any increase. But just like the lack of planning, right, for repairs and maintenance, this is it. We got no choice anymore. Otherwise, we're going to be back here asking for the same things and always seeing a shortage. And I know that the general public doesn't want that, but, in efforts to ensure that there's public safety and the goals of that are met, and the functions of the judiciary as they uphold, the rights of all of these individuals that go in there. That's very important because we're coming towards a time where it's at risk. The community
You're
is at
correct,
risk.
Councilwoman. It's a safety issue.
Yeah, right now, and we don't want to bombard the court with criminals, right? we want to make sure that
I would like to recommend or suggest that the director for TRCC and I will meet with you and work it out.
Sure, that would be great, and that's something where I think we could figure that out with the balance between the judiciary and DPS, right?
Right.
How we can link together so that the system flows. Right now, we don't have a system. It's MOUs that doesn't really mean anything, right? Unless we come with a system that can take us another 25 years so that your repairs and maintenance you can self-sustain somehow. We're finding that a lot with the agencies because they're not, up to date with their regulations. They're not up to date with their fees and fines. They're not up to date with a lot of things. Therefore, us trying to move 500 miles because now we're playing catch up to fix all of this stuff. So that's my only request, Justice and Judge Naraha, is maybe the TRCC work with DPS, please. I'm really, really advocating hard for public safety because our community is going to be at risk if we don't take care of that. And we work together to really uphold and keep our community safe as a whole system that is in charge of that.
I
not
do
just
have a meeting
pieces.
tomorrow with TRCC. I'll raise that up.
Okay, thank you so much.
So, Congresswoman, this is, we've been having conversations with DPS, so it's nothing new. For example, the CJIS project, we meet every 2 weeks. I hope that you can join us in our meeting next Thursday. The other thing is on the e-citation project, we met just about monthly with representatives of DPS to get this portal up and running. So TRCC, there's a shared responsibility with the judiciary and DPS. But you're right. I hope that I know that you are going to consider our budget request seriously, but come October 1st, if you don't provide us with the others' requests, I know that you can't finance the entire $13.65 million, but the effects on October 1st on the judiciary will be quite harmful, immediately harmful to the judiciary, not just to the judiciary, but to the public out there, to the litigants, to the bar, to people who visit family court because they got slapped in the face by partners, and how do we handle those cases? It will be immediate harm for the public beginning the next fiscal year. So thank you.
Thank you, Justice. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Marisa. We're already about to wrap up since we are meeting the 2-hour mark. But just one last question, Director, with regards to your summary on the new NOP's request. So I'm looking at, for the Superior Court, there is a request of additional 7. And I'm looking at page 39 and 38. Under Superior Court, there's only like 3, administrative deputy clerk. So can you just guide me on what are the other positions that fall under Superior Court, under request for additional NOPs?
It would be table number 19
19?
and table 20.
Together, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so clarified. Okay, so so with that, we move further down on our order of business, and at this time, the Justice Manglonia, PJ Naraha, Associate Judges Tenorius, on behalf of the committee, we want to thank you guys and your team for coming before this august body to discuss your requests and answer our questions with regards to the governor's proposal. We all know that we are in trying times. We did take note on the real issues about the court and the judicial branch, and we will all do our best to assist the judicial branch. So with that, I'm going to give you back the floor, Justice, for the last closing remarks before we adjourn.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all the members of the committee. We come here again. I know that it's the CNMI has been in extremely difficult economic times, not just this year, last year, but in the past 5 or so years. And the judiciary is very aware of that. We try to be prudent in our spending throughout the years. We try to seek other funding sources. We've tried the U.S. Congressman's office also to help supplement what we can get locally. But we're grateful for what you can extend to the judiciary, and as I mentioned, on October 1st, defunding or underfunding the judiciary should not be the aim of this body. We need your support, and I hope that you put some digits there in the others in our request. Last year, you did not. Sorry to say that, but this year, let's make it possible. Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Justice, for your remarks. So we move further down on our order of business. We are now at an announcement. So I want to announce to the viewing public and to the members, remind the members that tomorrow we have the Department of Finance before us at 9:30 and Commonwealth Health Care Corporation at 2 p.m. So with that, we move now to our last order of business, and that is adjournment, and the chair will now adjourn this budget hearing. We are now adjourned.